Business Review, your daily source for the most critical stories in the financial world. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.
People in England were finally allowed to get a haircut for the first time in more than 3 months as the country took its biggest steps yet towards the resumption of normal life. As many people prepared to get rid of their lockdown locks, substantial queues formed outside many hair salons across England, including at Savas Barbers in Streatham in South London. Some hairdressers and barbers were reported to have opened at the stroke of midnight. Pubs, bars and restaurants were also welcoming new customers in England, but the devolved nations in the United Kingdom, mainly Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, have been setting their own timetables for easing lockdown restrictions. In Coventry, hairdresser Peter Johnson said he was apprehensive about returning to work under new conditions, which require the use of personal protective equipment and additional sanitizing of the workstation. Prime Minister Boris Johnson called on people to behave responsibly, respect social distancing regulations as the risk of a resurgence of the coronavirus remains, but he also stressed the importance of supporting businesses.
Movie and theatre fans from around Thailand are donning masks and taking care to social distance as they come to Bangkok this weekend to bid a final farewell to the Les Sala Theatre. The iconic theatre, built in the 1970s in the late modernism architectural style with an Art Deco interior, has been struggling for the last decade to stay profitable amid competition from new media and increases in the land lease. The coronavirus pandemic and all the social restrictions it has brought has dealt a final blow to the theatre located in the heart of Bangkok. Nanta Tansasha, whose family runs the theatre, said her father, Piset Tansasha, was a pioneer in Bangkok theatres. He opened 3, including Sala, which is in the Siam Square shopping area. It had a glamorous opening on New Year's Eve in 1970. The Undefeated, starring John Wayne and Rock Hudson, was the first movie screened in the cinema. The finale films this weekend include Italian movies and Thai documentaries, and 3,000 tickets have been sold to fans who want to see Sala, as it is known by everyone for a last time. It is now the last standalone movie cinema left in the Thai capital and is already dwarfed by tall buildings. Nanta expects a high-rise will replace her theatre.
Business is gradually picking up for Wakanada coffee shop in Wuhan of central China as thousands of patrons are placing orders to help lift them out of a financial slump triggered by the pandemic. Wakanda Coffee Shop became well known across China for providing free coffee for medical workers at nearby hospitals every day since January the 26th, 3 days after the city's lockdown. Located at the most famous shopping street in Wuhan, the coffee shop was hit hard by the pandemic, but this did not deter staff who continued to operate at full tilt, delivering free coffee to nearby hospitals to show their support for the medics fighting the disease on the front lines. With only 7 members, including an Iranian barista who chose to stay in the city, the shop continued to deliver 500 cups of coffee every day to nearby hospitals for more than 2 months. Touched by this story, people on the internet came out in support of Wuhan. They placed orders online across the country for the medical workers so as to help the coffee shop from its financial burden. During the lockdown, the shop received around $425,000 worth of orders. The shop published the details of the donations every day and vowed to donate all the surplus after taking out expenses. After the lockdown ended on April the 8th, the shop reopened its eat-in service and now sells over 100 cups of coffee every day with the support from its frequent customers. Now, with the recovery of the city, the flow of pedestrians and vehicles is also growing on the shopping street where Wakanda is located.
Celebration of the Independence Day may pose challenge to the pandemic prevention and control in the U.S. this weekend, as many U.S. citizens chose to get out of their houses despite the COVID-19 outbreak. O'Hare International Airport in Chicago is one of the busiest airports in the U.S. The number of flights at the airport dropped sharply a few months ago due to the pandemic. But on the eve of the Independence Day, although the airport has not reopened to passengers completely, the airport got busy once again as many passengers gathered at the airport in a short period of time. Robert Redfield, chief of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, recently warned the U.S. citizens to be vigilant and obey the safety guidance on the coronavirus at the upcoming weekend. Even though some states are reopening, people should still wear masks and follow the regulation of social distancing. He said taking proper safety precautions is quite important, as people are usually not clear of their underlying disease that may lead to more serious and more lethal symptoms of the COVID-19.
This mall in Sao Paulo is giving Brazilians a new meaning to window shopping. Shoppers can now drive through the aisles of the Botucatu Mall in Sao Paulo, state for the spot of retail relief amid the pandemic. Shop assistants come out to the vehicle to hand over items that were pre-purchased online. Managers at this mall hope the initiative will drive back customers to stores amid a crash in consumer spending. Latin America's largest economy is expected to shrink by 6.5% this year.
People walked in thick crowds through the downtown streets of Lima, a day after Peru entered the final stage of its economic reopening, ending a months-long lockdown to try and contain the spread of the novel coronavirus. Even with the crowd, shopkeepers said their own economic forecast was grim. The government said in a decree that Phase 3 of economic reactivation, which includes 96% of production activities, will restart all mining activities, industrial sectors and commerce, though they must comply with health protocols for the pandemic. Restaurants and shops will reopen to cater to a limited capacity of customers. Officials are also weighing health protocols for resuming domestic air and land transport. President Martin Vizcarra earlier announced the purchase of 400 ventilators from China, and at least 240,000 companies received an economic stimulus from the government to help them reopen. Peru lifted its quarantine in 18 of its 25 regions after coronavirus infections began to slow. Though its borders remain closed, it was one of the first countries in Latin America to go into lockdown in mid-March.
Argentine businesses are facing existential threats as the quarantine in and around Buenos Aires has been extended and economic activity slumped amid the pandemic. While traffic and people could be seen out on the streets of the Argentine capital, police checked documents of those boarding public transportation and driving along highways. Business owners described the extension and tightening of the lockdown in and around Buenos Aires from July the 1st through to the 17th, following a sharp recent rise in cases. Two business owners noted the uncertainty they faced as the restrictions continue. The country's official statistics agency said Argentina's economic activity plunged 26.4% in April, the worst monthly fall on record. The government now faces a tough balancing act between combating a recent spike in cases and reopening the economy. It has extended a quarantine in and around Buenos Aires, but relaxed rules in other parts of the country. Already mired in a recession for 2 years and in default on foreign debts, Argentina is headed for an annual economic contraction in 2020 that organizations, including the International Monetary Fund, have estimated at about 10%.
in Business Review, your daily source for the most critical financial stories. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.